It is our pleasure to welcome here today Dr. Judith Almann. And I say doctor because in May of this year, she was awarded an honorary doctorate degree from Fordham University. So applause for this amazing. Some of you I know have heard Judith before, but some of you are new to hearing her speak. She was born in Jasny, Czechoslovakia. She is a sought-out speaker for the child survivors of the Holocaust in Connecticut. She speaks 7 languages and has served as a Russian translator for the Russian Immigrant Resettlement Program. She moved to Stamford in 1975, and she actually just lives down the street from us. I consider her our neighbor on Prospect Street. She moved there in 1975 with her late husband, Kurt. She has 2 sons and 2 granddaughters, and she has honored us with her presence over the last, we've decided today, maybe it's been about 15 years. We bring her back because she has an incredibly important message to share. Her story may bring tears to your eyes, but her message will give you hope. Her message will lead you through dark days and difficult times. Her message needs to be heard over and over again, lest we forget. Judith was 14 years old when her home country of Czechoslovakia was occupied by Germany. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Judith Almann. Judith has a book that she would, if anyone would like at the end of this to write a note to her or to say something in it, we'll have it in the back so you can do that. So please do that. And we'll begin with her film.
Amar Rabbi Elazar, Amar Rabbi Chanina, Talmidei Chachamim, Marbim Shalom Ba'olam, Marbim Shalom Ba'olam, Shenamar, V'chol Banayich Limodi Adonai, V'rav Shalom Banayich, Al Tigra Banayich, Ela, Ela Banayich. Shalom Rav le'ohavei Toratecha, ve'ein lamo michshol, yehi shalom, shalom b'cheilech, shalva. Shalva, shalva, shalva be'armenotayich, lemanachai, רצון אמרי ויוד ליבי לפניך אדוני צורי וגואלי. Oh, may the words of my mouth, the meditation of my heart be acceptable before you. O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Ose shalom bimroma hu ya'ase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'im.
Judith actually put that together, so working with a few people to have something that was a document that would attest to things that went on.
Good afternoon, and thank you all so very much for coming. But thank you very much, Mrs. Mishkin, for inviting me, because if we would not be invited, there is no way for us to be able to reach young people. And this is so extremely important now and ever before. I come from Czechoslovakia. It is a small country. It was just as democratic as the United States. No discrimination whatsoever. We had no problem, free schooling. Nobody ever asked you what nationality, what color you were. It was freedom. Unfortunately, that ended in 1939. In 1939, Czechoslovakia was the second country that Hitler invaded. The first one was Austria, and they welcomed it because it was a German-speaking country. But Czechoslovakia did not. First, they occupied the Sudeten part. They were predominantly German-speaking people, and they annexed it to Germany. But later on, they occupied our entire country. After the occupation, our life has changed drastically. Every Jew, male Jew, from age of 18 to 45 was drafted to slave labor camp. Most of them never returned. They wore just their clothing, they didn't wear any uniform, and they went ahead of the German and the Hungarian army to occupy all the countries. After our occupation, our changed terribly. They confiscated everybody, every businessman, their business. They took the farms away. We Jewish children could no longer go to school. Next day, I met my friend Olga. She said, "Judy, why weren't you in school?" I said, "Because I'm Jewish." "But you were Jewish yesterday." She could not understand that we no longer could go to school. Any professional, doctor, lawyer, teacher, dentist, could no longer work unless he worked, or she, at this point the man were away, work for a Jewish company. Every Jew had to wear the Star of David, two of them, one in front and one in the back. So when you walked, you were seen. We had curfew. After 6 o'clock, no Jewish people could be found on the street. We could not walk on the sidewalk. We had to walk on the gutter. We were called an Unmensch, subhuman. Suddenly, even our friends didn't look at us because they were afraid. Even those that were not influenced by the Nazis, they were afraid, even if they didn't think that it was the right thing to do, but they were afraid what might happen to them if they would help out the Jewish. However, There were many, many non-Jewish families that hid Jewish people, as you'll hear in my story. Had they been caught, their life would have been at stake. They would have been killed or at least put into a concentration camp as well with their family. But out of the goodness of their heart, they risked it and they helped. There came out a law that any family that did not pay taxes in 1800 was automatically deported. He was not deported even if he was born in the United States or in England or in France, he was deported to Poland. Most of them never even made it to the Polish border. They were killed before they even reached the Polish border. There is now, you must have read about it, a French priest who studied the Holocaust from way back. And he investigated it, and he came upon the mass graves that are all in Poland and in Belarus. These were thousands and hundreds of thousands of people that were killed that way. And when I come to one of my sisters, I will tell what happened. As you know, there were 6 million Jews. Out of that, 1.5 million Jewish children were killed. In 20 million other nationalities, Poles, Czechs, it was just a chaos. That's why it is so extremely important for you young people to hear and to see that such atrocity should never happen again. Do not follow the voice of people, go this, do this, convince yourself, write letters, see what is the right thing to do. This is what happened to a lot of the young German people. They were following the mob, and that's where they wound up. I was just suggesting to a young lady here to read a book, The Sunflower, by Simon Wiesenthal. It's a very, very good book. After you read the book, there will be questions how you would have handled the situation. If I have time, I'll give you a short synopsis of the book. Coming back to us, my father had a general store. I come out of 6 children. My father's store was, they put in, the minute after the occupation, they put in a commissar in our business, and the money, the proceeds from the business was going to the government, and my father was able to stay there in the beginning, but not later on. Again, we could not go to school anymore, so all the young people, the parents were teaching them how to sew, how to knit, how to build, in order to keep us busy. My oldest sister was married and she lived in the same town. She had 2 children. Unfortunately, her husband also could not produce these papers, so she and her family was deported to Poland. My next sister in line was married, and she was married to a young man in Poland, about an hour by train from our home, because Jasina was bordering Poland. As long as we also had a farm. They took everything away, but they left us 1 cow. So my mother was still able to have some milk and some butter. So my sister in Poland, her name was Charlotte, she had a 3-year-old little girl and a 7-year-old boy. And as long as we were still home, my mother was able to send every month some food to Charlotte with a peasant. One day he comes back and he says, I regret very much, I could not deliver the food to Charlotte, but I witnessed her execution. What happened in the town where she lived? They gathered all the Jews, made them go out of town, made them dig their own grave, and made them undress to utilize the last piece of clothing that they had. In the brutality, they shot the children first, the husbands later, and then the mother. So when the peasant came back and told my parents what happened to my sister Charlotte with my with my niece and nephew and her husband. My next brother-in-law was married and he lived in Belgium. He had 2 sons. After Belgium was occupied by the Germans, he was able to smuggle himself to England and join the Czechoslovak army, and he fought against the Germans. My sister-in-law got herself to the south of France and was hidden by a Catholic family. My next brother-in-law was the only fortunate one. He left 1939 and he came to the United States. My next brother-in-law was a dentist and he was drafted to slave labor camp. Was 3 years in a German slave labor camp, subsequently caught by the Russians and sent to Siberia, from one hell to the other. I was the youngest one. I was the only one at home. There would have been a chance for me they gathered quite a few thousand children to go to England or at that time Belgium wasn't occupied yet. And my father said, Judy, go. I did not want to leave my parents. And I do not regret it because I was with them till their last breath. Again, we were still home, unlike in other parts where they occupied the countries. The Jewish people were taken to ghettos. And we, in the part of Podkarpatska Rus, we were still able to be in our home. Until it happened, it was one day after Passover in April, it was 6:30 in the morning. There were 2 SS men and 2 gendarmes. Let me explain. Some of you might know what SS means. In order to be an SS man, you had to be a pure race. You could, if your mother was a Slav and the father was German, the son could not join the SS group. You had to be a reine Rasse, a pure race. So to be an SS was at that time a great glory for them. Anyway, they knocked on the window. You have a half hour. Take all your money, take all your jewels, and come. What do you do? What do you take after living your life in the home? My father took his prayer book. He was a very religious man. My mother didn't want to go. She says, I don't want them to kill me. I want to kill myself. So she goes in a dark room, and I went, Mommy, you always have time to die. We convinced her. I took my manicure set, that was my last birthday present, and we started marching. We lived 6 kilometers, 4 miles from the town. We came down to town, we were told to walk up to the cemetery. I remember my father saying, how convenient, they're going to shoot us right here, they don't even have to bury us. That did not happen. It was cold, it was snowing yet. We were sitting on the graves of our ancestors. Within that 1 week, they said one person can go home, bring more money and more jewels, it will save your life. My parents didn't want to go, so I went. I came home. Everything was taken already. My father's motorcycle, my bicycle, all the valuable things were gone. The house was a mess, but we did have money because we expected at any time that they'll take us away. So we buried some money in jewels. I told the woman that worked for us, Dorothy, let's make a dough, put the money, the gold, and the jewels in the dough, bake a bread, and bring it to the cemetery. She did not do it. Hopefully she was able to utilize it. I had a beautiful German shepherd. I said, where is Harry? She says, he died. He stopped eating and he died. We were at that cemetery for 1 whole week. After a week, we were taken to the railroad. This time we were put into regular trains, and we were destined to go to Terezin. Theresienstadt is that's an hour from the capital of Prague, Czechoslovakia, from Prague. That was a concentration camp. They gathered the Jews from all over Europe, and from there they transported them to exterminating camps. We could not get into Terezin, so they took us to Hungary, to a small town called Mátészalka. There we were living like 30 families in a house, but there was a shelter, there was a bathroom, and there was one meal a day. And we were together with our parents. We were there. They took young people, we cleaned the camp, the ghetto. We watched little children, we taught them. We were there for 4 weeks. After 4 weeks, we were taken to the railroad. But this time, if you remember the cattle cars on the picture, they put 65 to 70 people in one of the cars, like sardines. There was no place to sit down. They gave us an empty bowl to use as a bathroom, and they gave us one bowl with water. And they closed it with an iron bar. Till the following morning, till they put all the people from the ghetto into the cars. The first night, the children already drank the water, and we started moving. It was the longest, the most horrible 4.5 days of our life. And the first night, a man dies. What do we do with the body? Put him in a corner. There was no corner. Women were giving birth, they delivered the babies. But what was the worst? The worst was the children screaming for water, and people went berserk. They went crazy. They screamed and they hit other people. They're making such noise that the SS man said, if that doesn't stop, we'll take all of you out and shoot you on the spot. So we had to tie their mouths, tie their hands, and keep them quiet. Finally, we arrived in Auschwitz. We arrived at our destination. We don't know where we are. They open the doors and they scream, "Raus, raus, out." They throw all the people out and scream. And men in the striped uniform running back and forth, looking at us. No, they say line up, row of 5, women separate and men separate. And they look at us, 14, 14, 18, 14 in every language, looking at us, 14. They go to a man, "You're a tailor, you're a doctor, you're a shoemaker." We were bewildered. We didn't know, what do they mean by 14? He sees a woman with a baby in her arm. "Give the baby to your mother. Give the little girl away." He sees a young, healthy woman in a kerchief. "Take your kerchief off." 14. You're a doctor, you're a musician. We are bewildered. And we stand there and wait. There is my mother, my sister, my aunt, my niece, and myself in the women's row. There is in the men's row my father, my brother-in-law, my uncle, my nephew, and another man. And they scream, "Raus!" and they emptied out all the wagons. There are the SS men walking with the German shepherds on a leash, but the men in the striped uniform are doing all the mourning. And we say, "Where are we? What is this?" And they say, "This is hell." Then we see a big sign, "Arbeit macht frei," work will liberate you. We are bewildered. There is a band playing classical music, men and women in the striped uniform. You don't know what is happening. Out comes this tall man with the shiny boots and a rubber stick in his hand. This is Dr. Joseph Mengele. He was called the Angel of Death, and he deserved that name because he was to determine who shall live and who shall die. He came to our row. He points to my knees to go to the left, to me to go to the left. And the rest of them are marching on. And as I passed my father's row, my father put his hands on my head as he did every Friday night to bless us. He said, "Judith, you will live." This was the last time that I saw my parents. We walked to the left, they walked to their death. We walked in front of a huge building, an enormous building. We walked up 3 steps. We came into the room. There are chairs lined up. Behind each chair is a man in the striped uniform with a machine in his hand to cut the hair. We are all young girls. We never undressed in front of men. There are SS men going with their German shepherds all around, and a man in the striped uniform behind each chair. We are told to get undressed, completely naked. We throw our clothes in the corner. Do we have any jewelry? Put it in a little box. And we sit down. They cut our hair completely. We have beautiful hair like you young ladies. They cut it completely bald. We were given a piece of soap in our hands, and we stood in front of a door where it says bath. In our case, it was water. In our parents' case, it was gas. After we went through the shower, we were given a gray dress. Unlike what you saw on the picture, some of them had buttons, some of them had a belt. We had nothing, just a plain sheet. And in a pair of wooden clogs, as you saw. And we waited until the whole group that was picked to go to the left went through the shower. After that, we started walking. I took one look at my niece and I said, "Ida, you don't look so hot." She says, "Neither do you," without hair. Anyway, a little bit about Auschwitz. The entire camp is surrounded with barbed wire. If you touch it, you get electrocuted. As you walk, there is an SS man with a gun on one side and an SS woman on the other side. There is a tower with a man sitting on top with a machine gun pointing at you. There is no way of escape. We walked from Auschwitz to the barracks. It took about an hour. It was a long, long walk. Anyway, we came and we stood in front of an enormous building. It was block 14. 1,400 girls fit into one of these big rooms. As you saw those shelves where the people are sleeping, one after the other, like 7 or 8, depended how big the shelves were. The only one that was on top had some air to breathe. Otherwise, only your face sticks out. Your body is like in a shell. And we were put in there. Within minutes, after we were settled, there is an alarm. It's called Blocksperre. Nobody can leave the camp, the barrack. Within minutes, there is the most horrific smell of burning hair. There was a girl named, a Czech girl, Olga. I said, "Olga, what is that horrible smell, choking?" She said, "These are your parents burning. As you went through the shower, they went through the gas chamber and immediately through the crematorium." It was done so efficiently. There were 4 or 5 transports a day of people being killed. If he could not pick, when he picked us, sent to the left, he did not want us to live. He needed people to work in Poland and in Germany. And if he had too many, there were transports that just went through right from the wagons into the gas chamber, into the crematorium. It was done with such efficiency that nobody can really understand unless you were there. We are a little bit of time, a little bit about life in Auschwitz. You're being woken up at 5:30 in the morning. All you have is that gray dress. It's cold. Auschwitz can be so cold in the morning, even though it was spring, very cold. And you go and being counted, roll call. So you stand in row of 5 this way, and you are being counted. There is no way of escape. So she went berserk at night. So the girl in charge, who is also a Jewish prisoner, she made a note, so and so many went crazy. Or the girl died, so we drag the body out and the body is being counted. And if one is missing, you stand 4 or 5 hours until they find what happened. Anyway, after roll call, you're going to the bathroom. Big deal indeed, because you're only given a few minutes. And if you cannot do what you have to wait till the following morning, which is no problem, because the food intake is so little that it doesn't matter. You get nothing all day long. Yes, you get a little bit of black coffee, about this much, enough to make 1 or 2 swallows. And at night you have no spoon, you have nothing. You get a pot of soup, which is made out of turnip, and it's thickened with bran. So you take a sip, you give it to the next one, until everybody has 1 sip. Once a week you get a piece of bread 4 inches square, very thin. You could eat it up in a minute, but you hold on to it because you don't know whether there will be food the next day. What do you do all day? You just sit there and talk about your parents, and you get the smell of the transports as they are coming in. Oh, incidentally, are there any twins in this group? Oh my God, 4. Well, thank God that you are born in this country and you are born in this era. Because what Mengele did, he was a doctor, and he was the one that did all kind of experiments on the twins, tried to change the color of their eye, tried to do all kinds, as you saw the last picture, what they did for the people. And later on, Mrs. Mishkin is going to read a letter that I have about what happened to one of the set of twins. Hopefully we have the time. So they did, for a while, they had a better life because they slept in a better bed, there was a sheet, there was a pillow, and they did get better food. However, the experiments that were done on them, and only a very, very small amount of people remained alive. Incidentally, he also announces, are there any pregnant women? Step out, you'll have a better life. And indeed, they did have a little bit for a very short time. But the experiments on the fetus while the mother was doing with the injections on them, none of the women ever survived, not one. Anyway, Mengele comes every other day to do another selection. If he sees a mother and daughter, he will take one out. If he sees 2 sisters look alike, he'll take one out. So what we did, we tried not to, I was afraid to stand next to my niece, even though she didn't look like me, but we never stood next to one another because we were afraid he will separate us. Sometimes we were taken to the railroad and we had to work there to select the clothes, what the new transports brought in. If you found a piece of bread, a bite of bread, you could, in the SS man or woman doesn't watch, you were able to swallow it. But we had nothing. Even if we would have found a spoon, which would have been a treasure, we couldn't take it because we had no pocket and we were watched very, very carefully. Again, life in Auschwitz was a constant fear because we were taken to the shower once a week. But with big trepidation, if he picked too many, the people from the shower never came back. They went to the gas chamber instead. After we were there for 6 weeks, one day we were taken to the shower. When we came out, we were given a blanket. What a wonderful treasure, a blanket. We never went back to the barrack, but we were taken, 2,000 Czechoslovak girls were taken to Germany. We don't know yet where we are going. We were taken in a regular train this time, and we came to West Germany, to a town called Gelsenkirchen. When we arrived there, it was late at night, and we walked about 2 hours from the train, and we came to a camp where it was all in tents. We lived in tents. The people that came in the beginning, that were in the front of the row, were able to sleep in one of these koyas, in one of these shelves. But those that were at the end had to sleep on the floor, which was fine. We were out of Auschwitz. The fear that we are taken to the gas chamber was constant upon us. We worked very hard. We worked day shift and night shift. Half of the 2,000 girls were working indoors, and half of them were working outdoors. The ones indoors were working in ammunition factories, and the ones outdoor, which I was part of, we were working outside. We built houses, we built roads, we built bunkers. Very hard work for young women. We were watched by the SS, and we were watched by the Organtod, by the army as well. Schaffer, work hard, beating us, but we were out of Auschwitz. That was the consolation. We were very hungry, but there we already got a bowl, we got a spoon, we got every day when we came, either we worked night shift and day shift. Whenever we came home to the camp, we were given a bowl of soup, 1 boiled potatoes, and a slice of bread in the beginning every day, later on every other day, at the end hardly any bread. Most of it just a little soup. Again, working extremely, extremely hard. At this point, the Allies kept bombing, and there were days where we said, dear God, let a bomb hit us. We cannot endure that hunger. No human being should experience hunger. It is something that you cannot describe. You don't think of a mother, you don't think of a father. All you think, if you could only have something in your mouth. You constantly, when you walk in the SS, women don't see if there was any potato peel or anything in the garbage, we picked it up and ate it. If we were not seen. Otherwise you get beaten on top if you see that. Anyway, life was very, very difficult. Then we were told to walk on to go to a next town, which was called Essen. There we alternated. There those that worked inside, worked outside, and the other way. Here I worked for crew. I worked inside with with ammunition. I had to put in heavy pieces of iron in the oven till it got hot, and then handed it over to the other girl. A piece of iron fell on my left wrist, and it broke. It was already in the afternoon. It was hurting terribly. If you cannot work any longer, there are transports going, taking them back to the camp. There were transports practically once a week for sick people that could no longer work. I said goodbye to my niece and to my friends, and the next day there was supposed to be a transport. In the middle of the night, somebody taps me on the shoulder. It's SS woman Erika. She was a short lady, but she was about that time 27 or thereabout. Komm du Kleine, come little one. Took me to the hospital in her little car, and they put a cast on. I said, what do I need a cast? I'm going to Auschwitz tomorrow. What do I need a cast? Don't ask questions. On the way back from the hospital, she stops off at the factory and she asked the foreman to give her a letter. She says, I need this girl. She speaks many languages. If the Hungarian girl, the Russian girl, the Polish girl does not speak German, and she doesn't know what the foreman means, she tells her what to do. He gave her a letter, and she handed it over to the head of to the Obersturmführer Rück, I remember his name, and I was saved. I had to go to work, which was no problem. The only problem was that ever since we left Auschwitz, we did not have any hygiene whatsoever, no shower. We had one little bottle of water a day. That little bottle of water was for drinking, they deducted a little bit of water that they used for coffee, and that one dress that we had to wash it. So we saved up a little bit of that water to wash that dress once when it got dirty. So we didn't have even, so when you drink your little bottle of water, appreciate how wonderful it is to have even just water when you need that. Anyway, we were there, we were ridden with lice from head to toe. There were many people were sick already, but we were still away from the camps. Then one day we were told to go on the death march, but that was literally a death march. Because, first of all, only half of the girls that left Essen arrived in Bergen-Belsen after 3 weeks of walk. We walked day and night. Sometimes we got a few hours a ride with a bus or with a van, but most of the time we just walked. But what was the worst part? If there was a mother and daughter, and one could no longer walk and just lie down to die on the street, we had to drag the one that could still walk to save her life. She did not want to leave the loved one behind. We finally arrived in Bergen-Belsen. Anybody that survived the camp of Bergen-Belsen will live forever. What you saw on the picture, all these bodies, all these bones, that was the picture of Bergen-Belsen. When we arrived there, mountains and mountains of dead bodies. Wherever you walked over one. Defecation, no hygiene whatsoever. If you wanted a drop of water, you had to stand in line hoping that you can catch a drop of water. Food, once a day, a ladle of food. If you got there in time, when she ladled down the food. If you got there too late, you had to wait the next day. My niece is completely jaundiced already. She said, Judy, I cannot make it, I'm dying. Could you get a little food before I die? The SS women said, if anybody is willing to carry the bodies into a mass grave, is going to earn a bowl of soup. I got a girl from my hometown, and we carried the bodies. Bodies can be so heavy because the stomach is all bloated, the arms are breaking, the legs are breaking, and we carry them. If the legs broke, you had to carry the body. We, at the end of the day, we got a bowl of soup, divided it in 3, and after that, Ida disappeared. My niece is gone. I said, oh my God, she didn't want me to see her dead. Again, there were weeks yet, we were walking back, we were waiting. We already heard the Allies. We didn't know whether it was the Allies. We thought somebody is going to liberate us because we heard the shooting going on. Some days we did not see any more SS men there or SS women. So we went to the place where they kept their food, hoping that we can steal some. We didn't know that there was German civilians. I'll take a sip of water, thank you. Talking about water, thank you. Anyway, there were days that we already could not endure it any longer. Finally, there was one morning that we saw the 15th of April. We saw soldiers in a different uniform. They said, you are free. They spoke English and I spoke English. I said, are you sure you are not Germans disguised? No, you are free. They were wonderful. They gave us everything that they had, but which was wrong because our stomach was all shrank and our people ate anything they could get their hands on. So what happened? Many more people died the following days that they ate everything the stomach could not take it. I was already very sick. There was an epidemic of typhoid. Your entire body is covered with dark gray spots, very high fever, and TB, just terribly, terrible, as you saw, skin and bone. The British emptied churches and schools and made hospitals out of it in order to save us. That part of the camp, they evacuated completely and had to burn it because I was there in 2010 and they showed me that it's one of the most modern museum in Europe, maybe in the world. It's magnificent. If you get to Germany, make sure you see it. Anyway, so what happened? They had the doctors that killed us the day before tried to cure us. Now you are free. What do you do with your life? You know you have no parents to go home to. You don't know whether you don't want to go back to the place where you were chased out. Anyway, so they gave us a choice. You can stay in Germany in a camp, in a displaced person camp. You can go back to your country of origin, or there was a Swedish Count Folke Bernadotte. He invited many thousands of people to come, survivors to come to Sweden. I chose to go to Sweden. When I woke up after 4 weeks in the hospital, my niece was alive. What a wonderful thing for me. Anyway, she chose to go back home, hoping that she'll find her brother who was killed 2 days before liberation. How am I doing? Hurry up?
Hurry up, Don. 20 minutes.
Well, we need questions. Anyway, I chose to go to Sweden. When we came to Sweden, we could not believe there are people that are friendly, that smile at you, that bring you stuff. We were in a quarantine for 4 weeks because they were afraid we would bring some of the sickness. And afterwards, they gave us a choice. You can go to work or you can go to school. I chose to go to school. I learned my profession. I'm a technical writer and designer. I'm retired. And I learned another language. Now, when I was liberated, I made a pledge to myself. I said, if I ever make it, I will have to tell the world what happened and educate young people that something like this should not happen again. Don't listen to what don't believe everything you tell. Have your own mind and do your best what you can do. And see to it that such atrocities should not happen. You must learn to understand where the dangers are. So with God's will, such thing will not happen, but it's happening now, unfortunately. And that's where you come in. In my case, knowing the language has saved my life. Learn all you can. You are fortunate to be one of the finest schools. Just last week I spoke at Fairfield University and I met a young man there. And he says, I know you, Mrs. Almann. I said, yes, where do you know me from? Well, I was a student at King and I got the finest education. So you are so fortunate, you really are. So do your best, learn all you can. Nobody can take it away from you, what you have in your mind. And learn what you can and create a better world. I am convinced that you will do the best there is. And I thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have questions that I can answer. Would would you want to read the letter first? There is a very interesting letter, since we have 4 twins here. Oh, here.
It's in your, what is it?
No, this is another thing. If there is time, I'll tell a very happy ending, so we'll talk about that too.
So this is about why one Auschwitz survivor avoided doctors for 65 years. 65 years ago, infamous Auschwitz doctor Joseph Mengele removed Yitzhak Ganin's kidney without anesthesia. The Greek-born Jew swore never to see a doctor again until a heart attack brought his horrific tale into the open. He is a thin man, his wine-red cardigan is a little too big, and his legs are like matchsticks in his brown pants. Yitzhak Ganin takes care of himself. He's freshly shaven, his white mustache neatly trimmed. The 85-year-old sits on a gray sofa with a cushion supporting his back. He is too weak to stand by himself, but he still greets a guest in German, Guten Tag. Speaking is hard for him. Slowly, Ava, his daughter Iris says, and brings him a glass of water. Her father has never in his life complained of any pain, she says. A month ago, he came back from his morning walk and lay down. Are you sick, Papa? Iris asked. No, just a little tired, Yitzhak answered, before going to sleep. But after a few hours, he was still tired. I don't need a doctor, he told his daughter. The next morning, things were even worse. Ganin's wife and daughter called the doctor, who diagnosed a viral infection and told him to go to the hospital. Ganin resisted, but finally realized his life was in danger. At some point, he stopped following the doctor's orders. Just one kidney. His family brought him to the hospital in his hometown of Petrak, near Tel Aviv. He had hardly been admitted when he lost consciousness. Heart attack, the doctor said. The blood clots were cleared with the help of tiny balloons, and the doctors put 5 stents in him. We thought he wouldn't survive the operation, said Eli Lev, the doctor, especially since he had just one kidney. When Yitzhak came to, he told the doctors where he lost his other kidney and why he had avoided doctors for 65 years. A reporter from the Israeli paper Ma'ariv heard about the story, and now, weeks after the operation, Ganin is ready to tell his story to a German reporter for the first time. He stretches back and looks at a photo on the living room wall. It shows the Acropolis in Athens. I come from Arta, a small city in northern Greece. It happened on Saturday, March 25th, 1944. We had just lit the candles to celebrate the Sabbath when an SS officer and a Greek policeman burst into the house. They told us that we should get ourselves ready for a big trip. The 85-year-old slides the sleeves of his shirt up and uncovers his left forearm. The number 182558 is tattooed there in dark blue ink. Tied down. The transport to Auschwitz took 2 weeks. His sick father died on the journey. Upon arrival, they had to strip and submit to an inspection. Ganin's mother and 5 siblings were then sent to the gas chambers. Yitzhak was taken to Auschwitz-Birkenau Hospital, where Joseph Mengele, the so-called angel of death, conducted a grisly experiments on Jewish prisoners. Ganin had to lie down on a table and was tied down. Without any anesthetics, Mengele cut him open and removed his kidney. I saw the kidney pulsing in his hand and cried like a crazy man, Ganin says. I screamed, Shema Israel. I begged for death to stop this suffering. After the operation, he had to work in the Auschwitz sewing room without painkillers. Among other things, he had to clean bloody medical instruments. Once he had to spend the whole night in a bath of ice-cold water because Mengele wanted to test his lung function. Altogether, Ganin spent 6.5 months in the concentration camp's hospital. Just fatigue. When they had no more use for him, The Nazis sent him to the gas chamber. He survived only by chance. The gas chamber held only 200 people. Gannon's number was 201. On January 27, 1945, Auschwitz was liberated by the Soviet troops. Yitzhak Gannon made it back to Greece and found his surviving siblings, a brother and a sister, and emigrated to Israel in 1948-49. He got married, and he swore that he would never go to a doctor again. Whenever he was sick, even when it was really bad, his wife Alma said, "He told me it was just fatigue." But now Gannon is happy. He finally went to the hospital after his heart attack. 1 week later, he had another heart attack and was given a pacemaker. If the doctors hadn't been there, he says, smiling for the first time, I would be dead now. Yitzhak Gannon has survived again.
Thank you so much. Very good. Thank you for reading. I hope you have any questions. If not, I have a little joyful thing. We were liberated. And then there's this girl, she found her fiancé. She wants to get married right away in a white dress. In Bergen-Belsen, a white dress, where do you get anything? Anyway, there was a British pilot. He says, I have a parachute. It's made out of white cotton. You're welcome to it. Where do you get a needle? Where do you get thread, a scissors, a tape measure? Dressmakers galore. Anyway, I don't know where we called it organized. Whenever you got something that's called organized. So they got the scissors, they got the needle. P.S., they made a dress. They borrowed it somewhere, a jacket, and a rabbi, there was no question about it, and they got married. The next girl found her fiancé as well, but she was taller, so they had to add some. P.S. When you come to Washington, D.C., the gown is still hanging there, so make sure you will see it. Do you have any questions?
How old were you when you were liberated?
I'm 18.
I teach common language in one of my Spanish classes this year. Could you talk about how you learned so many languages?
Oh, yes. Well, my father was a great for education. So at the age of 3, we had a woman called Mrs. Deutsch. Just so happens her name was Mrs. Deutsch. She taught my oldest sister, who had children my age, and she was literally steadily employed. So at the time of 3, we were learning German. Czech, of course, was my second language. My father, we spoke Yiddish in the house. Russian we learned in school. Hungarian, my mother was Hungarian, and when they occupied, we had to learn with a private teacher. We had to learn that. Polish I learned when I went to Poland to visit my sister. What other language do I speak? English I learned. I had an English teacher at the age of 10 already. What did I leave out? No, French I don't.
Russian?
And English, Russian, yes, the Russian was compulsory. Well, anyway, and then I learned Swedish in addition. These are the languages, but it is extremely important. So we already had 2 languages in public school. You had to learn 2 languages. And then in the higher school, 1 more.
Hebrew? Did you have Hebrew at all?
Hebrew I had, yes. I had another teacher at home, Hebrew, from the age of 6. Anyway, so. But anything you learn, it doesn't have to, not everybody has the ear for languages. Whatever you learn, but learn everything you can, because it hopefully only in peace and you utilize it. You get a doctorate degree, that's the least you can do. Okay. Any more, any other? What about, okay.
When did you move to the U.S.?
I came here in 1948, and nobody, but nobody loves this country as much as we survivors do. Nobody appreciates a free country as this. So literally we kiss the ground when we arrive here, and we are loved. Anyway, nobody asked about the tattoo. I'm sure you met people with numbers on their arm. Because what happened, many of the transports as we came in were tattooed, the ones that he selected to live. What was the aim? Why did he do it? Because at that time, England and the United States said, what are you doing to the Jews? He says, what am I doing to the Jews? Hitler, meaning Hitler. He says, they are my enemies, and I'm keeping them in camps because I don't trust them to roam around or to live separate. So, look, and then he has a list, all right, a list of I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of people. You can look at it. Well, he said he is making the list of these people with a tattoo only until, because if the war ends at 12 o'clock, at 11:55, he will still have time to kill the rest of the Jews. Of course, he was sure that he will conquer. He said, ich werde die Welt erobern, I will conquer the world. He even already said that he will come and occupy the United States. That he didn't reach. But he went in England and he occupied most of Europe. So he had a great power, but with horrible, horrible intentions.
Dr. Almann, in the past you've talked about the feelings that you had after liberation, but how you came to terms with what happened. You talked about that.
Yes. Well, I had all the reasons to be hateful. You agree? I was robbed of my family, my parents killed. I was in a horrible, horrible. But by carrying hate, thank you for reminding me, carrying hate, you don't hurt anybody. You hurt yourself. Because the one you hate, she or he doesn't know about it and doesn't care. But what you're carrying that hate in you is destroying you. Utilize your energy to do good things in life, and that will create a good for you and good for the world. So don't hate, but make peace with everybody. Even if you don't like what she said about you, say, she didn't mean it.
Have you been back to Auschwitz?
Yes. In 2010, I went to Auschwitz with 80 students from Connecticut. And it was, people asked me, how could you, Judy? How could you even go there? It really was in a bit. I was marching, there were 10,000 young people from all over the world. It was a Yom HaShoah on the Day of Remembrance. I was carrying that flag, I have the picture. I was carrying the flag from Auschwitz to Birkenau, and I was here. I made it. You did not achieve what you wanted, and this was a remarkable thing. We went from Auschwitz, we went through to Treblinka, to Majdanek, to all the camps. Then I was invited on the way back. The rest of the students went to Israel, and I was invited to go to Bergen-Belsen. And I spoke for 3-4 minutes. That's all I got for 50,000 people. It was a commemoration. And I told them I'm alive and I'm happy and I want to hope for a better world in Bergen-Belsen. So that was really, but to take those 80 students there was an unbelievable experience. Then we came to one of in Treblinka, where in one of the camps, the ashes are still there under a canopy. I had to drag those 18-year-old boys and girls away, literally. They were crying there. They were lighting candles. It was an experience I cannot explain. Any other questions?
You told them once about your actually first-hand encounter with Dr. Mengele?
Yeah, well, about
when you were getting ready to go.
Oh yes, yes. You know, as I go, I was told to go to the left, and I see my mother fainting. As she walked, She had a tendency to faint, and since we were separated, she was falling down. So I went behind the row and I tried to help my mother. Mengele, not that he wanted to save my life, but somebody there disobeyed his order. He grabbed me here and he threw me, thank you very much, and threw me to the left. With this gesture, he saved my life. So my life was saved by Mengele, of all people, and including Erika. I was in Germany. I was invited to Germany 2 years ago to speak in universities and in high schools. And there were one student came over to me crying. She was a high school student. She came over, she said to me, I'm carrying a terrible burden. I said, what is your burden? She says, my grandfather was an SS man, and I'm carrying that burden. I said, but you are not responsible for your grandfather's sins. You do a better thing, you do a good thing in life, and don't worry about your grandfather. He was dead by then. You heard about that last German guy that is being judged down?
The tribunal. Right?
Yeah, at the tribunal. Did you hear about it? Well, anyway, I'll tell you anyway. What happened, this is that guy that is a very good student when he is young, especially in math. So they got him into the Hitler Youth, and when he was old enough, he was the one that was working in Auschwitz of all the money. You know, as people came in with all kind of a different money and gold and all that, and he handled all that. And after the war, somehow he got away with it. He was not tried. Anyway, now he is 85 years old or close to 90. He goes to a party, a German party, and they're having a good time, drinking beer. One guy gets up, he says, you know that story about Holocaust that never happened. That the Jews invented it and they just doing it. So he gets up and he says, you are telling me? I was there, I saw what the SS is, I saw the crematoriums, I saw the gas chambers. So P.S., 2 days later, he was caught and he was put to jail, and now you know what I mean? Even he could not stand the guy that say that the Holocaust never existed. Incidentally, there is the movie now around about that guy, that British guy that says that the Holocaust never existed. He lost the case, and it's very good. The way I saw the movie, it's very good. So I want to thank you so much for listening, and I know that you will do a very good job and you will create a better world. Promise?
I don't think she would mind my saying that she has reached a wonderful age of 92, and I say that simply because the people that have the story to tell, we need to listen because they won't always be here, and that's, I think, one of the things that she's offering to you is the opportunity to take that story and tell it to your kids and then to your grandchildren. That it's important to know. And we are just very happy that you came and spent the day with us. Thank you so much, and thank you all for coming.